Hello and welcome to the Ice Guys. This is the show that takes you into the world of the National Hockey League. Every game, every day, from a betting perspective. With pro sports handicappers, Ian Cameron, Alex B. Smith, and various guests from the world of hockey and sports betting. And now, here's your host, Ian Cameron.
Welcome to the Ice Guys. It is Tuesday, January 23rd. Ian Cameron with you. Alex B. Smith under the weather. Back with us probably tomorrow. But I'm here and we are ready to take apart this Tuesday card. It is a big Tuesday slate, as it usually is. We've got 9 games on tap in the NHL, and we'll break all of them down in just a moment. Shout out to everyone in the chat. We're going to look back first, though, at last night's action in the NHL. The Jets and the Bruins, huge game last night, clash of the Titans, if you will. 2 of the best teams in the NHL and in their respective conferences. Boston with the 4-1 win last night. Late absence was Gabe Vilardi. We weren't sure at the time of the show yesterday if he was going to play. Sure enough, we found out right before the opening puck drop that he is not going to play last night in that game for the Jets, and no Scheifele as well, and just a very difficult time generating offense last night for the Winnipeg Jets. Now, you do have to credit Boston for that as well. They played a really solid game away from with the puck, away from the puck, I should say. But you got to give the Bruins credit for a good defensive game. There's no doubt, though, that Winnipeg was definitely missing some firepower. And just in the first 2 periods, they really weren't able to generate a whole lot. And that was certainly a problem for them. So Jets with the 4-1 loss last night to the Bruins, and the Boston Bruins remain perfect right now on this homestand. It's been a very good homestand for them, and they get the 4-1 win last night over the Winnipeg Jets in that one. The Vegas-New Jersey game, wild affair between the Golden Knights and the Devils. Back and forth it went. Not a good defensive night really for either team, but for Vegas, a team that usually we can trust, with a 5-3 lead. Not the case last night. They give up 3 unanswered, and the New Jersey Devils, bolstered by a hat trick from Tyler Toffoli, end up getting a 6-5 win last night over the Vegas Golden Knights. Kind of tough. I was very happy the draw cashed because I was on that, but that was the one draw that did cash for me last night, and that really helped because, you know what? While it was a down night for me overall, it could have been a lot worse if the draw didn't hit in that Vegas-New Jersey game. So that's what we talk about on this show constantly with betting, 2 or 3 or 4 draws on a nightly basis. You hit 1, and certainly if you hit 2, man, it is noticeable. And it really does a lot to boost your bankroll. There's no question. So very, very interesting to see how Vegas bounces back, because Bruce Cassidy was not happy with his team's defensive effort, saying we played it like a preseason game. We treated that game like it was a beer league game. He was just not happy at all. So we'll see how they fare tonight, though, against the Islanders, who, we're talking about the coaching bump, and, maybe a run is on the way for this Islanders team now with Patrick Waugh behind the bench. So that is a very interesting matchup. And of course, we'll get to that in just a bit. 4-1 Florida against Nashville. Panthers with the victory. Very happy to see that. If I had stayed away from the overs in that game, the first in the period and the full game over, I would have had a clean sweep in that game. But certainly was right on the money with the Florida opinions, money line. A little fortuitous with the team total because we got obviously a late goal 3-1, and then of course another late empty net goal 4-1 to make it 4-1 in favor of the Preds. A little 2 empty net goal magic for me with the team total there on the Panthers, but it was a solid game. They deserved to win. They outplayed Nashville. 38-27 were the final shots in that game. And this Florida team, I'm going to continue to try to make money with this team on the road. They have been absolutely terrific away from home lately. There's no doubt. And I think when you look at this Panthers team, it's almost like they've really, really honed in their game defensively more so on the road. At home, for some reason, they play a little more loose, wide open style of hockey, not as much attention to detail defensively. But no, on the road, they have been excellent, this Panthers team. And they show their road warrior prowess again last night with that 4-1 win over Nashville in that game. Arizona with a 5-2 win against Pittsburgh. One of the most embarrassing goals that you'll ever see a team give up. Pittsburgh It ended up being a delayed penalty in favor that was going to go to the Arizona Coyotes. And sure enough, they take Tristan Jarry out of the net for the extra attacker during the delayed penalty call. And then just a unacceptable, inexcusable miscommunication by Malkin and Letang. And it ends up resulting in the puck going in the empty net for a goal that just was a backbreaker, because that made it 4-2 Arizona, and that was just dreadful for Pittsburgh to give that up. I blame Letang. What the fuck are you doing, man? You're basically a blind backhand pass backwards right towards your wide open empty net. The Letang's the one that's at fault, and it handcuffed Malkin. It put him in a tough spot. Now, it went off Malkin sticking in. I get that. But Letang put Malkin in just a brutal spot in that situation. And that's just, absolutely terrible. And then Malkin, of course, off his stick and in. It was just, and that the moment that went in, you felt like that's really going to take the wind out of the sails of that Penguins team. And it pretty much did. But credit to Arizona, man. Another home win for them. We talk about the record at Mullet Arena. It's been great. They get a 5-2 win against Pittsburgh there. Vancouver, 2-0 against Chicago. Certainly picked the right avenue to go about this game. The only bet I had was Vancouver team total over 1.5 in the first period at plus 185. They got both goals in the opening period and nothing after that. And it ends up being a 2-0 Vancouver win. Pretty much parked the bus for the Vancouver Canucks. Kind of a little lackadaisical. Like they kind of, with the lead, they kind of sleptwalked. But with Chicago's, lack of offense right now with all the injuries, it really didn't matter. And when you've got Thatcher Demko, who's just playing as well as any goaltender right now in the NHL back there to clean up the mistakes, certainly you don't have to play a letter perfect game. You don't have to play your A game necessarily and still be able to win games and have success. And we saw that from the Canucks last night in that 2-0 shutout over the Chicago Blackhawks, the still very shorthanded Chicago Blackhawks. Very disappointing from the LA Kings, the last game of the night. I mean, they get a win against the Rangers. They had dominated San Jose the previous two head-to-head meetings. That was not the case last night. 4-3 shootout loss to the Sharks, although Kakkonen was about as good a game as he'll play in net. LA did have the huge edge in territorial play and in chances and in shots on goal, but San Jose finds a way, opportunistic, and they find a way in the shootout, 4-3 last night over the LA Kings. So that's just a very, very disappointing loss for LA. They've got to try to get on some kind of run. And Todd McLellan's not having it anymore with Pierre-Luc Dubois. Very pointed remarks after the game saying he needs to step up his game and he needs to be there and dig in a little bit more as far as his compete level is concerned. And, I was wondering when we were going to get some kind of pointed remarks toward Pierre-Luc Dubois. I mean, no points again and a -2 last night. He was on the ice for 2 San Jose goals. It's not good enough. Simple as that. Not good enough. And finally, I think Todd McLellan is at the point where, he's got to say something about this guy. He hasn't delivered for the LA Kings, and he hasn't been very good lately. 4 straight games without a point for him. -3 in those 4 games combined as far as his plus-minus rating is concerned. So very, very poor showing this season from Dubois. Certainly the Jets are getting the upper hand on that trade right now with the LA Kings. So we'll see if he can get things going, because certainly that was Todd McLellan trying to light a fire under Pierre-Luc Dubois' backside after last night's loss. And we will see if he can get his game back on track moving forward. But yeah, definitely a tough loss for LA. But shout out to Alex B. Smith. I know he's under the weather today and he's not with us, but we do have to shout him out for the Drew Doughty call, his bargain bin special, cashing in the last few minutes with that game-tying goal. So Drew Doughty at least gets us one bargain bin special on the board from last night's card. So great to see that come through at a very nice plus price with Drew Doughty scoring there for the Los Angeles Kings. All right, let's get into the Tuesday card. And we will begin with the first of the 9 games, Dallas Stars, Detroit Red Wings. Dallas -145, road favorites, 6.5 the total here in this game. Detroit with a nice 2-1 win against Tampa Bay on Sunday. A Detroit over Tampa Bay Sunday sweep with the Lions over the Bucks, and of course in the NFL playoff game, and of course the Red Wings over the Lightning. Alex Lyon, man, he continues to give this team a chance to win for the most part on a nightly basis, which is what you want to see. The Red Wings playing very good hockey right now. 7-2 in their last 9 games. They've bounced back from the loss at Carolina to beat Tampa 2-1 at home on Sunday night. We'll see if they can keep it rolling here in this game against Dallas, who are coming off a shootout loss in the coaching debut behind the bench of Patrick Waugh with the New York Islanders. Dallas loses that game by a score of 3-2. We'll see how this one goes between these two teams tonight. I'm certainly not in a rush to fade Detroit. They're playing really good hockey. Do I want to lay a $1.45 on the road with Dallas? No. They have dominated Detroit. 6 straight head-to-head meetings have been won by the Dallas Stars head-to-head. 3 of those games have gone to overtime. I like what I'm seeing from Detroit right now. I'm going to keep it a small bet on Detroit because of the series history being dominant toward Dallas. But, I like what I'm seeing from Detroit. And right now, the Red Wings, with their current form, putting them out there as not just a small home underdog, but a plus 125 or so home underdog. A little disrespectful, if you ask me. A little disrespectful. So Detroit plus 125, I'm interested. Draw, I'm interested. I think this is definitely a good draw candidate. We saw Dallas go to OT against the Islanders. Detroit has seen overtime or a shootout 3 of the last 8 games. And head-to-head, we've seen 4 of the last 9 between the Red Wings and Stars go past regulation. So this is a dog and draw for me, Detroit, and the draw. I like both teams to score, and I like first period over and both teams to score first period a little bit more than the full game, because that's exactly what we saw with Detroit and Tampa Sunday night. We saw a 1-1 first period, and then it pretty much quieted down as far as goals after that. I could see something similar here. I lean to the over full game, but I just think the both teams to score in the first period or a first period overlook might be a better option. And keep in mind with Detroit, the Tampa game, first period over cashes. Carolina game on Friday night, first period over cashes. So that's 2 straight that we've seen cash over in the first period with the Detroit Red Wings. So those are the looks for me in this game. And then as far as player props go in this one, you want to make sure you keep an eye on Detroit. And, Daniel Sprong is someone that I'm definitely more and more interested in as far as props. He scores the other night against Tampa, getting more and more of a higher profile for Derek Lalonde in the lineup. You're seeing his ice time move up just a little bit more and more. You've got Fabry on the second line, of course, for the Detroit Red Wings. Dylan Larkin's been on a great stretch of performance lately for them, no doubt. For Dallas, I'm going to go back to the well as long as he remains on the top line with Wyatt Johnston for the Dallas Stars. So I'm definitely interested in that. That's a great stat from Landon, who loves his Stars, about the first period over with the Red Wings. Last 9 home games in the division for Detroit have gone over 1.5 in the first period. So that's a good stat to go by there. Yeah, but those are the main props. I would maybe sprinkle on Daniel Sprong. That's Sprong. He has definitely been picking things up offensively. Even though he's on a bottom 6 role, he does get power play time. Larkin, Fabry, I'd be interested in them for Detroit. My number 1 value prop for Dallas, again, remains Wyatt Johnston. Not saying that, Sagan and Duchesne and Marchment, that very strong second line, can't produce, but I think you get even more value right now with someone like Wyatt Johnston playing well for the Dallas Stars. All right, next up, we've got Tampa Bay, Philadelphia. Pretty much even money here, minus 110, both sides, 6.5 the total in this game. It's a Philly or pass game for me. I don't want Tampa on the road. I have not bet Tampa on the road hardly ever this year. I've either faded Tampa on the road or I've passed on the game from a side perspective. I don't think I've had one single Tampa Bay. Well, I did. Actually, there was one game I did have them, and I remember it. It was at Minnesota when Minnesota was beaten up to shit and shorthanded and had all those injuries. And it was obviously a Minnesota team that was very, very depleted. And I just don't trust the Lightning on the road. That being said, talk about impact injuries for the Philadelphia Flyers, and Owen Tippett is an impact injury. He missed the game against Ottawa on Sunday afternoon. He still remains day-to-day with the lower body injury. And obviously that first game without him, they lose 5-3 to the Ottawa Senators. That's an impact injury with how well he's been playing. 18 goals, 12 assists so far this season, and 30 points in 46 games for Owen Tippett, who had really been playing well, especially of late. Prior to his absence against Ottawa, In the 7 games before his injury occurred, he had scored 6 goals in the last 7 games for this team, points producing machine. So it is definitely an impact injury for Philadelphia, with him not available once again tonight for them. Samuel Ersson, by the way, will be in net for Philadelphia. We expect Vasilevsky back in between the pipes for Tampa Bay. He wasn't actually that bad against Detroit, but again, lack of run support in that game. Lack of offense hurting him against Detroit on Sunday night. But Ersson, he wasn't at his best against Ottawa. 4 goals on 33 shots was really his first subpar start in quite some time. Before that, he had played very well, though. He had 4 straight games of 4 straight starts of giving up 2 goals or less prior to the loss against Ottawa. So we will see how he fares here in this bounce back start here against the Philadelphia Flyers. Philly's all of a sudden gone over the total in 3 straight games. Not always a team we think of as far as overs are concerned, but 3 straight Philly games have gone over the total. This is just a game for me where without tipping, I'm a little more hesitant to pull the trigger on Philadelphia. I lean that way. I'm probably not betting it as of right now. As far as the total goes in this game, we talk about how it's been kind of a mix of overs and unders recently. I do want to point out, though, in Philadelphia, Tampa Bay's done pretty well against this team. They have won 5 straight in their last 5 visits here to Philadelphia, this Tampa Bay Lightning team. So I'm probably going to stay off. I lean draw, but nothing other than that. Pass for me as far as the side and the total. I may look at some props here in this game, but that's about it. I am interested in Farabee and Forster, both of those players for the Philadelphia Flyers. They're both on the left wing side in the top 2 lines. Forster, scored against Colorado, getting more opportunity. Joel Farabee is really starting to heat up for them. He is on a 6-game point streak for this Philadelphia team. 9 points in the last 6 games for them. 5 goals in the last 6 games for this Philadelphia team. So definitely interested in maybe looking at Joel Farabee, who again is on a nice offensive heater at the moment for the Philadelphia Flyers, no question. So keep an eye on that. Scott Lawton, too, 2 goals in the last 4 games for him. So there's a couple of options there. I mean, for Tampa Bay, we do have a couple of lineup shakeups here right now for them. We have Valtteri Morella. Remember that guy that scored his first goal in the National Hockey League a few games ago against Minnesota? He's on the 3rd line now with Nick Paul and Connor Sheary. We've seen a little bit of a shakeup from John Cooper with the lines. Stamkos, Point, and Kucherov remains unchanged as the top line, but now Mikey Eyssimont moves up to the 2nd line for the Tampa Bay Lightning. It looks like tonight with Cirelli and Hagel on that 2nd line. So Mikey Eyssimont might actually have a little bit of value here going into this matchup tonight against the Philadelphia Flyers. All right, Ottawa and Montreal. We've got the Senators minus 140, road favorites, 6.5 the total here in this one. Ottawa, talking about them the last few games as we have on this show, we think that Ottawa might be able to get on some kind of run. We think there's a possibility they're capable of doing that. But the first thing they have to do is win 2 in a row. And we have not seen the Ottawa Senators do that in a very, very long time. And that's the next step they have to take. You can't just win one and lose your next game. I mean, they have not won 2 in a row since the late part of December. So we've basically gone almost a full calendar month without 2 straight victories, for this Ottawa Senators team. So that's definitely something that I would be concerned about here going into this game. I also would be concerned about the fact that for Montreal, think about where they stand as far as this spot in the schedule, returning home to face Ottawa. Number 1, they lost to Ottawa last week 6-2. And number 2, they got embarrassed by Boston on Saturday night in that 9-4 loss. So you factor in that Ottawa beat them last week. You factor in the fact that Boston, annihilated them 9-4 Saturday night at TD Garden, and 2 straight losses and outscored 15-6 in those 2 games. You would expect Montreal to be a little bit pissed off here, want to bring a much stronger, better effort. Marty St. Louis has been really reluctant to criticize his team because he knows they're rebuilding. He knows they're a very young group. He also knows they've been very much injury depleted this season when you think of the likes of Kirby Dach and Christian Dvorak and Alex Newhook. And then they've had others in and out of the lineup this year, including, Anderson's been in and out lately. But definitely saying that, we haven't competed as hard. We've been pushed around a little bit. And note the pushed around statement that Marty St. Louis had after the Boston loss, because sure enough, look who's been recalled from the American Hockey League, Arbor Jacki, who is now back with this team and back in the lineup and back on the blue line here tonight for the Montreal Canadiens. So I think that's a part of the recipe that they are using to try to fix these issues right now, as far as just being able to stand up for yourself. And we know Arbor Jacki will do that when he is out there on the ice for this team. But no, they got to clean things up defensively. Goaltending, we know, has always been up and down all year. Ottawa's coming off a nice win against Philadelphia 5-3. No, there's reasons for optimism for Ottawa. You look at the last 5 games. They beat San Jose, which is not a big deal, but they had the lead against Colorado, were playing very well against the Avs, and then they let the lead slip away and they lost. They played a great game against Montreal. I thought they played Winnipeg as well as they possibly could. I thought there were times they outplayed Winnipeg on Saturday, and unfortunately they lost in overtime, and then they had the win on the back-to-back against Philadelphia. So there's definitely steps of improvement. You're seeing it with this Ottawa team now. The more they get, not as much travel, more opportunity to practice, trying to buy into what Jacques Martin is selling as far as better defensive play, but it's still, at the end of the day, you look back, and even during this better stretch, winning 2 in a row has eluded this Ottawa Senators team. They have still not been able, to beat this team, to put 2 games in a row on the board. And that concerns me going into this game. Now, they have gotten the better of Montreal. They've won 7 in a row head-to-head over the Montreal Canadiens. But I'm going to go with a Montreal first period full game split tonight. And I do want a portion of the first period on my card here, not just full game, because I think the first period in particular, that's where Montreal might really be at their best. Maybe Ottawa a little vulnerable early in this game. And that's where I think you could get Montreal really trying to throw their best punch at Ottawa after these just really 2 porous games in a row. One of those against this same Ottawa team last week, and then we all saw what happened against Boston. It wasn't good. So I like Montreal, and I'm going to split with the first period and the full game. I'm on first period over. I'm on first period both teams to score as well. The same bets that I cashed with last week when these 2 teams played. Again, that's first period over, first period both teams to score. And we're also going to take over 6.5 here, minus 140 as well. So when you tally it up, although the Montreal bet is a split bet, it's basically, if it were a 1-unit bet, let's say it would be on Montreal all together, then the way it would be for me would be a half unit on first period, half unit on the full game. And then, of course, I've got all those overs, which I think you have to look at. When these 2 teams play, there's goals. 3 straight overs head-to-head, 5-4, 5-2, 6-2. Ottawa's still trending over the number as far as their last 6 games, 5-1 to the over their last 6. Montreal, we've seen what they've done the last few games, giving up 15 goals in the last 2 games combined. So we should see goals tonight. First period, like I said, both teams to score. First period over, full game over, and also going to split Montreal with the first period and the full game with them. And as far as props go, like I said, it's a pretty good game for props. We do expect to see some offense. And by the way, it's Jake Allen confirmed in net for Montreal. It should be Korpisalo for Ottawa, but not confirmed there as of yet. But Josh Anderson, Uri Slavkovsky, who remains on the top line. And like I said, as long as he remains there, there's some good value for him to find the back of the net. Sean Monahan, he's being showcased. There's a chance he's not with Montreal post-trade deadline. So, look at that. For Ottawa, Vladdy Tarasenko for sure, because this is another case. We talked about how the showcase of Sean Monahan by Montreal, because he's likely going to get dealt for the trade by the trade deadline. Same with Vlad Tarasenko. I mean, there's a very good chance Ottawa deals him away prior to the trade deadline. So, again, they want to see him play well. They're going to put him in spots, to get greater opportunity. And I think you're going to start seeing that. And for Vlad Tarasenko, he has been on a better offensive run lately for the Ottawa Senators. 1 goal against Philly, 1 assist against Winnipeg, a goal against Montreal when these teams played. last week. 4 goals in the last 6 games combined. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 points in the last 6 games combined as well for Tarasenko. So again, when you talk about these angles, these are some of those little intangible factors you can use to your advantage as far as betting player props is concerned. You've got players that are likely going to get moved, players that are going to want to increase their own trade value and the trade value for themselves, for the team. You've got it on each side here. Monahan for Montreal and Tarasenko right now for Ottawa. I think both of those guys won't be with their respective teams after the trade deadline. Batherson, you could look in that direction as well as far as player props go for Ottawa. Matthew Joseph has been noticeable too. Now, he only has a goal and an assist in the last 3 games, but recently Jacques Martin pushed him up the lineup a little bit, and he's been playing a little bit better lately for the Ottawa Senators, so keep him in mind as far as maybe a player prop look as well in this game. Ridley Gregg on the second line now, no longer the top line for Ottawa. We'll see if he can produce once again, but he has been pretty good as far as recent production, no question about that. All right, next up, we've got Vegas and the New York Islanders. New York Islanders taking significant money here, up to minus 150 as home favorites in this game. The total currently sitting at 6 and shaded to the under in this game. Back-to-back for Vegas on the road, tough spot, but not a happy head coach, Bruce Cassidy, after the loss to New Jersey. So you would expect them to want to play a lot better. Will it be enough? And it's a very tricky game. My initial thought on this game was, well, first of all, it's Islanders or nothing for me, But just because you want to bet on a team coming out of a coaching change and you want to ride that team as long as they keep winning, I don't love this price on the Islanders. And that's a Vegas team that doesn't get called out very much, that was called out last night. So it would not shock me to see Vegas push back strong with a much better effort tonight in this game. It looks like, too, with this being a back-to-back, now keep in mind with the goaltending, we're probably not going to see Logan Thompson. He played last night. Yuri Patera, he's been dealing with an absence lately as well for Vegas. And Aiden Hill, is he finally ready to return? I mean, big questions need to be actually, Yuri Patera is not even up with the team right now. So it's Thompson, it's Isaiah Seville who's on this road trip backing up Thompson. Yeah, Yuri Patera is not even on the with the team right now. But Aiden Hill is closing in on a return. He's expected to make his return at some point for Vegas during this road trip. Is it tonight? It's a possibility, but it hasn't been confirmed yet. But there are some sites kind of thinking here that it might be a return in net for Aiden Hill tonight in this game. So we will see. Islanders are past for me. Like I said, once Patrick Waugh got hired, like I have always done for years in the NHL, really in most sports, the first game since the coaching change, you bet that team. I did that against Dallas, cashed a ticket. But again, you're talking about now minus 150, minus 155. Vegas is still the better team. They're angry, upset the way they played last night. So I'd expect them to push back strong. So I don't like the price enough to bet the Islanders here, minus 150. I like the draw, though. I mean, why not? Draw, it makes sense. We saw, obviously, overtime last night, Vegas, New Jersey. We saw the Islanders. They still required overtime, even with Patrick Waugh behind the bench for the first time on Sunday night against Dallas. So I think the draw is certainly very live in this game, as always is, it seems, with the New York Islanders involved. So for me, that's about it. The draw for me, that's the only bet pregame other than props. Dorofeyev, yes, Dorofeyev is the one that's got the value right now for Vegas. He scores last night for the Golden Knights. He's playing with Stevenson and Stone. It's a great opportunity. Nicholas Waugh, again, on the second line. There's value there as well for Vegas as far as props go in this game. New York Islanders, I'm going to go with Hudson Fasching. Hudson Fasching's been moved up to the top 6 here with Patrick Waugh behind the bench. And sure enough, with that opportunity, he gets one of the 3 Islander goals against the Dallas Stars the other night. So definitely, I think if you're looking at best player prop value, one for each team tonight, you're looking at Pavel Dorofeyev, top line tonight for the Vegas Golden Knights, coming off getting a goal last night against the New Jersey Devils. And I think you look at Hudson Fasching for the New York Islanders. Again, second line, someone that's gotten a little bump, with Patrick Waugh here, and he certainly made the most of it. And you're talking plus 690 at Betano Sportsbook for Hudson Fasching to score a goal. And even Dorofeyev here, plus 325, guy that's going to be on the top line. So very impressive. Waugh, yes, I like Waugh. Stevenson, yes. Stevenson more so assist props. Definitely am interested with that. So for me, just the draw. I lean Islanders. I'm not going against the Islanders until I see them lose with Waugh behind the bench. We know how these work. Oftentimes you see a streak and a win streak unfold. And you know what I noticed too with the Islanders, and really made a point of it to pay attention to that Dallas Islanders game. A little bit more conservative, and I wasn't sure how Patrick Waugh was going to employ his system here initially. Was he going to let this team play a little bit run and gun? Was he going to try to focus defensively? Looked like focus defensively was what he was looking at in that game against Dallas. I thought, a little bit more of a conservative type of approach from the Islanders. So for that reason, and Vegas, is ticked off that they blew a lead and gave up 6 to New Jersey last night. I think theoretically, conceptually, the under could make some sense here in this game tonight with the Golden Knights and the Islanders. Again, that's just my initial thought. We only have one game sample size, not much data points to rely on as far as how are the Islanders going to go about playing as far as style of play is concerned with Patrick Waugh behind the bench. But my first thoughts on that Dallas game was they're going to try to tighten this thing up again because they know their defensive game has slipped throughout the course of the season, which is a big reason why they're not in a playoff spot right now. So definitely keep that in mind. That's just my first thought, just the eye test. And speaking of that, watch Jimmy and Pierre's show by that same name. It's very good, Monday to Friday. Our good friend Jimmy Murphy. Make sure you support him in that show. But just based on my eye test of watching Stars Islanders, it looked like they wanted to get back to simple game. Make sure you cycle the puck. Let's make sure we manage the puck well. And I definitely thought that's kind of what we got from the Islanders against Dallas. So if I were to look at the total, I would lean under here. And certainly Vegas wants to tighten up the ship defensively tonight after what we saw last night from them in New Jersey. All right, next game, Washington and Minnesota. We've got the Minnesota Wild minus 155 home favorites here in this game. Total currently sitting at pretty much 6, shaded to the under across the board. Some books do have 5.5 though with the total. So if you like the over, and I kind of do like the over in this game, I would look to shop around here and look for that 5.5. Minnesota is one of those teams now that Kaprizov is back, and really for the most part, their forward group is about as healthy as it's been in a very long time. We know this team was ravaged, just a couple of weeks ago as far as injuries are concerned. But right now you look at the injury report, and really other than Connor Dewar, pretty much everyone else is healthy up front for the Minnesota Wild. And the reason I say that is because look at the way we've seen this Minnesota team look offensively all of a sudden here in the last 3 games. Very, very solid at that end of the ice for them. And, part of it's Kaprizov being back. Part of it is that, you've got certainly other players stepping up, like Rossi, like Joel Eriksson-Ek has been very good lately. Ryan Hartman, Zuccarello has really started to step his game up too for the Minnesota Wild. But suddenly you look at them the last 4 games, they're 3-1, and they have scored a grand total of 19 goals in the last 4 games combined. So, they're averaging well over 4 goals per game. The Minnesota Wild during this stretch. So that definitely is something that they're probably going to have to keep scoring because, you look at the defensive end for them and there's still concerns because of Jared Spurgeon being out. It's just such a huge blow to this blue line. He is their best all-around defenseman, their best shutdown defenseman as well for this Minnesota Wild team. And now that his season is over, he's on IR. He ain't returning the rest of this season. Definitely you could see this Minnesota team kind of transition into an over team a little bit. I know 3 straight overs now that they got all their forwards healthy, and obviously Spurgeon remaining out on the blue line makes them worse as far as puck prevention is concerned. So I kind of view Minnesota in that realm right now as maybe there's some value toward overs with them. Although the flip side of that is it's not easy with Washington right now because 5 of their last 6 games have gone under going into this game. So But at 5.5, I am interested in the over, and I will look at it at that number. And it is worth noting when you look at head-to-head between these two teams, 1, 2, 3, 4 of the last 6 have gone over 5.5. So we've had 4 of the last 6 meetings have had at least 6 goals with the Minnesota Wild and the Washington Capitals. And especially here in Minnesota, you go back to 2018, these teams have met each other 5 times here at XL Energy Center, and the scores of those games were 5-2, 5-2, 4-3. There was one 3-2 game that stayed under, and then the last time they met last year in March was 5-3 in favor of Minnesota. So there are 5.5s out there, and that's what I'm grabbing here, over 5.5 here with Washington and Minnesota. In fact, at Pinnacle, you can get over 5.5 minus 118. BetMGM has over 5.5 minus 120. FanDuel is over 5.5 minus 122. So if you're betting the over, there's no reason to not to get the 5.5 here on this game. As far as the side goes, look, Minnesota's won 2 in a row. Very impressive. I got to say, those 2 wins on the road were very impressive against pretty good teams, Florida, Carolina. But now you're back home. You're laying a bigger number. No, not in this price range am I comfortable with Minnesota. I'm just not. But I'm not taking Washington either. So it's definitely a pass for me as far as the side goes in this game. As far as props, like I say, Rossi, Eriksson, Boldy, Zuccarello, Hartman especially. If you want to look at any of those players, you can't fault you for that because I can't fault you for that because they've been producing and playing well. TJ Oshie for sure for Washington is just been on a terrific run here the last 5 games, 5 goals, 6 points for the Capitals in the last 5 games. So he's played extremely well offensively for them as of late. So I think definitely he continues to be someone that's worth a look right now for Washington with how he's producing at this point in time for the Capitals. So definitely I think Oshie props. And like I said, there's a multitude of Minnesota players right now that are producing at a pretty good clip that you could consider looking toward as far as player props go in this game tonight. All right, St. Louis and Calgary. We've got the Calgary Flames right now, minus 170. Home favorites, 6 the total in this matchup. Cashed a ticket with St. Louis on Saturday against Washington. It was the rematch between those 2 teams after we saw Washington get the better of the Blues in the game in Washington. St. Louis bounced back on home ice in the very next game and ended up getting the victory against the Washington Capitals Saturday night. Now they go back on the road, and the road has not been kind to the St. Louis Blues. They're only 8-13 on the road this season. And, of course, we saw them lose at Washington, their most recent road game. Just 1-4 in their last 4 games. The only victory was that aforementioned 3-0 shutout win over the Washington Capitals in their last game. Looks like as far as goaltenders tonight, it's Binnington versus Markstrom in this game. Dylan Dubé away from the team to deal with the player assistance program, mental health concerns. And by the way, it is confirmed Darcy Kemper and Philip Gustafsson are your goaltenders in the Washington and Minnesota game. Darcy Kemper hasn't been great this year, but he is facing his former team, his original team, the Minnesota Wild. We'll see if that instills a better effort. I'm not totally sold on that. But getting back to St. Louis, Calgary, St. Louis, like I said, they had the win against Washington, but not exactly a sign necessarily that things are back on track. The road record's been spotty. I will say this about St. Louis. They have won 5 of the last 6 against Calgary. So for whatever reason, the St. Louis Blues have played Calgary very well. A 3-0 shutout win in Calgary back in October for the St. Louis Blues. So we'll see if they can duplicate that again here. Calgary's off back-to-back losses at home against Toronto and Edmonton. They have Columbus and Chicago, an extended homestand to wrap up their pre-All-Star break schedule. So, now you're going to be looking at maybe 0-3 on this homestand if you don't win tonight. So there should be a little sense of urgency, I would think, here from the Calgary Flames in this game tonight, taking on the St. Louis Blues. We'll see who's in net. It's like I said, it's confirmed already. Binnington and Markstrom. I think Calgary, it's a good spot for them to win. I just don't love the price enough. So I would probably look at a Calgary team total in this Calgary team total instead, because that's what I do now with the favorites of above minus 150. I veer more toward team total, and you can get probably the Calgary over 3.5 here, plus 105 in that kind of range. I could see it. Keep in mind, too, before the win against Washington, we saw the Blues give up a 5 spot to the Capitals on the road. They gave up 4 to Philly, 4 to Boston, 5 to Florida, 4 on the road at Pittsburgh. Not exactly shutting it down of late, St. Louis, and especially so on the road. So I think Calgary team total over 3.5. I'm interested in that. We've talked about Calgary first period overs lately, how they've been doing pretty well. Not so much in that Edmonton game. It was a very tight first period. It only ended up 1-0 for the Edmonton Oilers on Saturday night. But certainly, I would look maybe toward this first period over tonight, maybe the full game as well, but maybe veer a little bit more toward the first period over for the Blues and the Flames tonight. But more than anything, Calgary team total over, I do like more than anything here in this game. And then as far as the props go with the Blues and the Flames, you look at what St. Louis has been doing lately. A lot of their goals have come from, very similar, personnel. It's basically been the same cast of characters. Brandon Saad even has been someone that's been stepping things up a little bit for the Blues. He's had 2 goals, the old veteran, in the last few games. Jake Neighbors is on the second line with the captain, Braden Shen. He scored against Washington. I think he's probably maybe worth a look for the St. Louis Blues right now. Shen also had a goal in that game against Washington. It was probably their best line, Saad, Shen, and Neighbors, Saturday night against the Washington Capitals. And then for Calgary, it's just basically wash, rinse, repeat, the same group of players I've mentioned for weeks now on this show as far as finding the back of the net. Sharon Govich, man possessed right now. Incredible run for him. I say stick with Matt Coronado and see if you can cash a goal prop with him tonight, even though he didn't score in his return to the lineup against Edmonton on Saturday. He still had 2 shots on goal, still playing on the second line as well for the Calgary Flames. So I still think there's an opportunity for him to find the back of the net. Blake Coleman, who we've talked about quite a bit, with 5 goals in the last 6 games for the Calgary Flames and on quite the point streak as well, or point run, I should say, during that span where he has 2, 4, 5, 6, 8 points in the last 6 games, Blake Coleman for the Calgary Flames. So definitely a decent amount of player props that have some value, especially for Calgary. Like I said, Neighbors in particular would be one I'd be interested in for the St. Louis Blues tonight. All right, next up, we've got Columbus and Edmonton. The Edmonton Oilers minus 370 home favorites in this game. The total currently 7 in this game with the Blue Jackets and the Oilers. This is kind of baffling to me that we're seeing a 7 here. Obviously, Columbus is involved, and they're not exactly a defensive juggernaut. We understand that, and that's probably playing a huge role in why this is right now, no question. But when you look at Edmonton right now, so much of this incredible 13-game win streak has been predicated on some of the best defensive play and goaltending we've seen from this team in years. This is they have got their own Winnipeg Jets kind of streak going right now, where in the last 10 of these 13 consecutive wins, they have given up 2 goals or less to their opponent. So they have themselves now a little Winnipeg Jets, team total under, opponent team total under streak going right now. And of course, the Jets saw their streak of holding teams to 3 or fewer snapped last night by Boston. But right now, the Oilers have bought in to better defensive. It's not that they've bought in, it's that their structure's better, their system's been changed. I think what ended up being the death nail, or the nail in the coffin, I should say, for Jay Woodcroft is that for some reason, after last year's playoff loss, he decided to go like this different, like box and one hockey version of a box and one defensive scheme early in the season, mimicking what the likes of Tampa Bay and Detroit and some other teams were playing as far as their defensive prowess. And it was just, the team was not taking to it. They just, either they weren't grasping the concept or they couldn't execute it and replicate it on the ice. And that's when the defense was just horrendous early in the season. And before Jay Woodcroft, eventually right toward the end of Woodcroft's tenure, he decided I'm going to have to change it back to the way it was. And by then it was too late. They had already made the decision, hey, we're off to this brutal start. We have to make a coaching change. But obviously they have simplified the defensive structure since Knobloch took over. And really, to me, it's more so not just Knobloch. It is Paul Coffey. It's a Hall of Fame defenseman who is on that coaching staff, who has done just an incredible job, getting the message through to the players that you don't have to cheat for offense all the time. All right. You don't have to hang out at the blue line waiting for the puck to arrive and go the other way. No, you should be committing as a 5-man unit on the ice with your other 2 forwards and your 2 defensemen, and committing to making sure that when we don't have the puck, we're on top of it, trying to get it back, to be in good position, to block shots, to communicate in the defensive zone. And all of those things have improved really immensely for Edmonton. And I didn't think they had it in them. I didn't think personnel-wise they had it in them to play an extended stretch of play defensively like this. But they have shown that they're capable of it. And what is the better posture defensively and positioning and the new system and obviously the influence of Paul Coffey, one of the great defensemen of all time for Edmonton? What has all of it done for this team? Well, what is it? It's also what it's done for Stuart Skinner in net. It makes life easier for him. He's able to see the puck better. You're not giving him these grade A quality, high danger chances, shift after shift after shift, every single game. And his play in net has also improved because, look, the team in front is playing better. So you put it all together, and like I say, this is at the very beginning, I'm like, okay, they're playing a little better defensively. How long is this going to last? But it's lasted 10 straight games now of 2 goals or less that they've allowed. So we have to give them credit. And it shows you that this group, even with those question marks, in the back end, everyone for years now has questioned, Nurse and Ceci and Brett Kulak and Desharnais and Bouchard, as far as defensively, how they can get it done. Are they capable of getting it done? Well, right now they are. And Bouchard's defensive game has improved. Is he great yet defensively? No, but he's a lot better than he used to be. And we know what he provides offensively from the blue line with that boost bomb of a shot of his, the puck moving ability, the ice vision, the ability to make a difference on the power play. So there's no question. This is definitely an Edmonton team that, really, really like what I'm seeing from them. We'll see what the Blue Jackets can provide as far as resistance. They lost 4-1 to New Jersey in their last game at home. We'll see if they can bounce back. They're just 1-4 in their last 5 games. The only win was against a Vancouver team that was in a pretty miserable spot at the end of a long road trip when they beat the Blue Jackets last Monday afternoon, or when they beat the Canucks, rather, Columbus 4-3 in a shootout last Monday afternoon. If you look at head-to-head matchup, though, Columbus has been a very, very big problem for Edmonton recently. 3 straight head-to-head meetings. The Blue Jackets have been victorious, including a 3-2 overtime win here in Edmonton last year. And you look at Edmonton, too. One thing about this win streak, and especially recently, 3-1 against Ottawa wasn't easy. 2-1 against Chicago wasn't easy. Nearly went to overtime that game. They did play 2 overtimes in a row at Montreal, at Detroit. Toronto game, they were trailing. It wasn't easy. Seattle game, they were trailing. It wasn't easy. Calgary game, that was 1-1 going into the third period. Wasn't easy. They pulled it out in the third period, and they won 3-1. I like the draw here. I'm going to take a shot. You're going to get a great price here with the draw in this game. Wouldn't shock me if Edmonton finds a way to win, because they've been the poster child of finding a way to win repeatedly during this 13-game win streak. And I don't know if even with the 3 straight head-to-head wins in a row for Columbus, don't know if I'm fully trusting their current form to go into Edmonton and beat this team. But give them a battle, I could see it. They have matched up well with Edmonton. And the Oilers are winning, but not comfortably of late. Every game's been they've had to work for it. They haven't been rolling over teams. This is not one of those recent win streaks where, yeah, it's a 13-game win streak, but all 13 games they've been crushing the competition. That hasn't been the case here for the Edmonton Oilers. So that plus 490 that I'm seeing at FanDuel for the draw is just something that I think is a little too rich to pass up. So that's what I'm going to look at, plus 490 with Columbus Edmonton draw in this game. And I'd honestly lean under. I really would. Can't believe I'm saying that, but here I am saying that. And Columbus is not a team I'm rushing to bet unders with, but it was a 3-2 game last year in Edmonton with these two teams back in January, 3-2 Jackets in overtime. So keep that in mind. I'll draw for me. That's what I'm looking at here in this one. I think it's plus 490. It's worth a look. And that's why I like that better than Columbus. First of all, I don't know if Columbus wins this game. I don't trust them fully, but I think they will put up a battle. And if you look at this Edmonton team, you just came off big-time games, Toronto, Seattle, Battle of Alberta. It definitely, I think Columbus, depending on what we get from Elvis Merzlikins, who is trying to show off his value right now because he wants out. He wants a new, fresh, clean start, and he probably needs it at this point. Will we get a good game from him in this one? We'll see. He was very good against Vancouver when they beat the Canucks. Kind of wasn't nearly as sharp against New Jersey, but it's essentially what you get right now with Elvis Merzlikins. So that's what I'd be looking at. And then as far as the draw here, and then as far as props go, I'd say Sillinger and Shinikov on the top line for Columbus are worth a look. They have been pretty reliable. Sillinger's really started to heat up since Pascal Vincent moved him up to the top line center spot. Fogle, McLeod, I would not sleep on some of these depth forwards for Edmonton either of late. Sam Gagner, we saw him score the other night. Dylan Holloway returning to the NHL on Saturday night. He got an assist. Now, he was only on the fourth line. He played fewer than 10 minutes, but he did make an impact. He got on the score sheet with an assist in that game. So definitely we will keep an eye on that. But for me, the draw for sure. I think plus 490, very real draw possibility here because I think the Jackets are going to come here to, and I like that they've been, resting and cooling their heels since that loss to New Jersey on Friday night. So this has been extended rest for Columbus. They haven't played since Friday night. So very well-rested Jackets team coming into this game against Edmonton. I think they will put up a battle. Not sure about win, but overtime, when they went to OT last year head-to-head in Edmonton, I definitely think that's possible. All right, Buffalo, Anaheim. We've got the Sabres minus 160, road favorites, 6 the total here in this game. Sabres, of course, on the road now, going out west, taking on this Anaheim Ducks team that just cannot get out of their own way right now. It's just really, really unfortunate what we've seen from Anaheim. I think there's more talent there than their record would indicate. Hell, you could probably say that about both of these teams. There's more talent with them than their records indicate, but you are what your record says you are, and both of these teams below 500, and at the moment, unlikely to be playoff teams in the spring. Buffalo coming off a 3-1 home loss to Tampa Bay, so they dropped the final game of that homestand, and kind of, well, you are who your record says you are because, you want to see who you can beat and who you're not capable of beating. And when you look at Buffalo here on that homestand, they went 3-3. They pretty much lost all the good teams and they beat all the bad teams. They lost to Seattle, Vancouver, Tampa Bay. They beat Ottawa, San Jose, and Chicago. So, that tells you all you need to know. But right now, Anaheim's a pretty bad team. So when you look at this matchup, this should be a game Buffalo's capable of winning. There's no question. Now, the road record's 9-13. It's been a little bit worse than their home record. Anaheim's home record's been worse than their road record. I mean, I certainly think Buffalo can win it. I'd lean that way. But am I laying minus 160 with the Buffalo Sabres? Absolutely not. There's no way that's going to be done going into this game. No way, no how. It's going to be John Gibson in net for Anaheim. When you look at what he's done lately, hasn't been good. It's back to the John Gibson kind of struggling right now. Edmonton lit him up for 7. Gives up 5 to Carolina, 4 to Florida, 4 to San Jose in that loss the other night to the Sharks. Didn't play against the Rangers. Dostal played. Kind of a struggle lately for the veteran. Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen has all of a sudden started 5 straight for the Buffalo Sabres. Remember, they've sent Devin Levi down, so it's either going to be Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen making his 6th straight start. Actually, no, Levi's back with the team. They sent Comrie back down, so Levi's backing up. We'll see how this one goes. I mean, I could only look over the total in this game with these two teams. I think Buffalo can score on this Anaheim team. Everyone's scoring on them. And the fact the total's only 6 here in this game is kind of surprising. Over 6 minus 105 makes sense to me. Last year, these teams played twice, 6-3 in Buffalo, 7-3 in Anaheim. Sabres won both games. Both of them flew over the total. Buffalo team total is probably a better option if you like the Sabres. I might sprinkle on that too. Buffalo team total over 3.5. Anaheim's given up 5 in back-to-back games. They gave up 4 to Florida, 5 to Tampa Bay. They're giving up goals in bunches right now. So I might sprinkle a little bit too on this Buffalo team total over 3.5 at plus money too. Buffalo over 3.5 plus 110, but I like the full game over even more. Over 6 here, minus 105. Both of these teams are untrustworthy night to night defensively. And I think you're going to see that. Now, again, be careful with looking at Buffalo and seeing that, in 3 of their last 4 games, they've given up 1 goal or less. The Vancouver game was a flat spot a little bit for the Canucks, tough travel spot. San Jose, Chicago, no offense, not offenses that we're very trustworthy with. So, for me, I think we'll probably see some goals here tonight. Gibson's form hasn't been great. Ukko Pekka-Luukkonen actually has been solid lately, but again, let's see if as the competition gets a little bit better. He was okay shutting out San Jose, Chicago. He gave up 3 and they lost to Tampa Bay. So still a question. The one thing Anaheim can do is score. Anaheim can't keep the puck out of their own net right now, but they do have offensive capabilities. And for me, Henrique is the guy you got to target right now. Playing with the rookie Leo Carlsson and Troy Terry, and he's just suddenly on a hot streak. A big-time hot streak. 4 goals, 6 points in the last 4 games for the Anaheim Ducks. So he's the obvious prop candidate on the Anaheim side. There's no question. With honorable mention, I guess you could say, to Mason McTavish. He got a goal a couple of nights ago. And Troy Terry racking up the points. I mean, the goals, not so much, but 5 points in the last 4 games for him. For Buffalo, we'll see if Jeff Skinner will play. He didn't play against Tampa Bay. He's questionable for tonight. That means Zach Benson might move up to that top line. If that's the case, I think his props have some value. JJ Peterka, I think probably a good look as well for the Buffalo Sabres. He's been chipping in lately. Casey Middlestat, too. 4 points in the last 3 games for him. So in a game where I think there's a pretty decent chance we see some offense and we see some goals, it's not a bad game to get involved as far as player props are concerned. All right, final game of this Tuesday card, New York Rangers, San Jose Sharks. We've got New York minus 340, road favorites, 6 the total in this game. I'm not doing it again tonight. I mean, I thought, Rangers got a desperately needed win after struggling. Then they play now they play San Jose. It feels like, hey, it's time to get on a run here, put a couple of wins together. But I said that about LA going to play San Jose last night, where LA gets a win after some struggles, build on it against San Jose, and they lose 4-3 in a shootout. So this kind of feels like that exact same situation tonight with the New York Rangers. They finally got a win to snap their little funk when they came back in the third period to beat Anaheim on Sunday night. But now they play San Jose, and you think, hey, it's time to build some momentum. Don't just beat Anaheim and think, rest on your laurels and that, hey, everything's good again. Come to work and beat this San Jose team. But, I'm not doing it. Not at this price, that's for sure. San Jose, it is a back-to-back for them after the win against the LA Kings last night. That's 2 straight wins for them. Hasn't happened very often, but they beat Anaheim, and then they have the monster upset against the LA Kings last night in a shootout. We'll see how this one goes. To be honest with you, we've seen a lot of close games with the Rangers and the Sharks. You go back to the beginning of last year, these teams have played each other 3 times, including 1 time earlier this year. Rangers won at home 3-2 in overtime last October. San Jose won at home the Rangers won in San Jose last year 2-1. San Jose won in New York 3-2 in overtime last year. And then earlier this year in December at Madison Square Garden, 6-5 Rangers in a wild up and down affair. So the draw is the only thing I would really consider here in this game with the Rangers and the San Jose Sharks. And we did see a draw last night, obviously, in the Kings and Sharks game. And keep in mind, too, for the Rangers, this is going to be their 4th game, final game on the road trip as well. And one of these deals where, if they win, they're 2-2, and suddenly the road trip feels like you accomplished more. But if you lose somehow tonight to the lowly San Jose Sharks, you're 1-3 going back home to play the Vegas Golden Knights on Friday night, which is an ESPN national TV game on Friday night, Golden Knights and Rangers. So to me, the draw is, I might sprinkle a couple of bucks on that. I'm just going to look to see what the price is on that. I mean, when you think about it, 3 meetings with the Rangers and the Sharks since the start of last season, all 3 games were decided by 1 goal. And only one of them went to overtime, but the other 2 were regulation games that were decided by 1 goal. So, for some reason, it has been very, very close games, Rangers versus Sharks. So it does make that draw, an appealing look here. Plus 420, I'll bet it at that price. Plus 420. I'm always hoping for in these bigger favorites. When I bet a draw in a game involving a bigger favorite, I'm always looking for plus 400 or better. And that's exactly what we're seeing here with this spot, with this price tonight on the San Jose Sharks. Mackenzie Blackwood in net tonight, not surprising because it was Kokkonen last night. So we're seeing Mackenzie Blackwood tonight, and Igor Shesterkin getting the call once again for the New York Rangers, who, still trying to get his game, back in terms of consistency. It looked like for a bit he was starting to get his game back in the later part of December. Then he gets to January, and here's what Igor's done. Shesterkin gives up 6 to Carolina, 1 to Chicago, then 5 to Vancouver, 4 to St. Louis, 1 to Washington, 2 to Seattle, 4 to Vegas in a disappointing loss that night, and then 2 goals, but only on 18 shots against Anaheim. So really it's just a big mixed bag, right now with Igor Shesterkin all over the place, as far as his form in between the pipes. So like I said, I'm going to leaning toward the draw here with the Rangers and the Sharks. Do I lean over here too? I might, because the Rangers have trended that way. 3 of their last 4 games have gone over. San Jose back-to-back overs, and I'll say this about San Jose too. Since they got Logan Couture back, I don't know if this is all a product of Logan Couture, but, it's another forward that you have to pay attention to when you're playing San Jose and you're trying to defend them. Since he's been back in the lineup, they are 2-0 and they've scored 9 goals. And they've scored 9 goals in the 2 games combined. So I'm all of a sudden, this game I had very little on coming into this breakdown, and I've kind of talked myself into draw and the over at least a little bit for smaller plays in this game. That's probably, what we'll be looking at here in this game. But yeah, as far as player props go, for first of all for San Jose, like I said, with Couture back, you've got another player that you have to pay attention to, and he does have an assist in the 2 games. And like I said, they've scored 9 goals in the 2 games as well, which is pretty good for San Jose when you think about it. But Fabian Zetterlund, back-to-back games with a goal. I think if you're going to bet any player prop on San Jose, you pretty much have to start with him because he's scored in consecutive games. And then for the Rangers, Kakko has slowed down again on that top line. But again, every night there's going to be value. You just got to hope he capitalizes and converts on one of his chances with Zibanejad and Kreider. And Vinny Trocheck, continues to be pretty solid for them as well in terms of recent production. He's been in good form for the better part of the last several weeks. So those are the 2 I would look at as far as props on the New York Rangers side of the equation. All right, great stuff. That's the Tuesday card. Shout out to everyone. Hit the like button. 272 live viewers watching. We appreciate it very much. Make sure you sign up at patreon.com/Ice Guys. Just $10 per month. You get our daily card, sides, totals, player props each and every day from me and Alex get posted on the Patreon page, which is very convenient, obviously, for those of you that don't get to watch the show every single day. You'll always get our sides, totals, and player props posted on the Patreon page every single day. Patreon.com/Ice Guys, just $10 per month. Our goalie charts, totals charts. We will be recording some bonus videos starting next week. Alex and I, themed videos, Q&As, hockey discussion, betting discussion, and that. So looking forward to that. No question about that. Recording those during the All-Star break. And also our first Patreon exclusive Ice Guys live betcast. It is coming up. It is right around the corner. It's before the end of January. You guys do the math. What's today? January 23rd. So we've got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 days left in the month of January. That means the first exclusive live betcast of 2024 on Patreon is going to be sometime in the next 8 days. All right. We know the date already. I know the date. Alex does. And what's going to happen is the morning of the betcast, we will post the YouTube link for that Ice Guys Patreon exclusive live betcast on the Patreon page. And that is going to be basically the breaking news to everyone and all our Patreon members that we will be having our live betcast that night. So stay tuned. It's right around the corner, and we are looking forward to it for sure. Patreon.com/Ice Guys, just $10 per month. And again, that Patreon exclusive Ice Guys live betcast, it's coming up before the end of January. One of these next 8 days, and it's one of them. And we will be doing our Patreon exclusive live betcast for all our Patreon members. And what that means is if you want to watch the betcast live, and if you want to join us on the stream during the betcast, you must be a Patreon member. It will only be available to those of you that are Patreon members and subscribers. So again, it's just $10 per month for all of that great bonus extra content. And again, the $10 per month will help go a long way to keep this show going for the long term. So patreon.com/Ice Guys, just $10 per month. Make sure you get on board with that if you haven't done so already. And of course, make sure as well that you check out the Ice Guys store, all the great gear and merch available at iceguys.myspreadshop.com. All right, it is time for Bargain Bin Special of the night for this Tuesday night card. Lots to choose from, a lot of interesting spots out there as far as player props go tonight on this slate. I'm going to go back because to one that I had my eye on earlier, and I'm going to go back to the well with it here tonight. Even though I think, as far as who's going to win this game, it's up in the air. I'm going to go back to a guy that scored last night for this team. They're playing tonight. He's still on the top line. We're going to go to Pavel Dorofeyev for the Vegas Golden Knights, plus 325 at Betano for my bargain bin special of the night. He has been noticeable. He's been getting chances. Of course, he scores. He opens the scoring last night for Vegas against New Jersey. And again, plus 325 for a top-line player that is playing with confidence, playing in good form, playing with great players as well on that top line. And Stevenson's been an assist machine lately. So Stevenson's not looking to score right now. He's looking to set up his line mates, and one of them is Pavel Dorofeyev. So there we go. Pavel Dorofeyev for the Vegas Golden Knights, plus 325 for my bargain bin special of the night on this Tuesday NHL slate. My best bet for this Tuesday NHL card, let's go to Buffalo Anaheim. I like over 6, minus 115. Sabres and Ducks. I think it's going to be one of those games. It's two teams that are not that great. Both teams, I think, can spread their wings a little bit offensively in this game. Last year, it was two games that sailed over the total head-to-head between the Sabres and the Ducks. Both of them in the shorter term are trending over the total. Anaheim's defensive game has totally failed them lately. I think Buffalo gets going offensively, and I think Anaheim, the one thing they can do right now is score goals. So I was surprised this total was 6. Let's take advantage of it. Buffalo, Anaheim over 6, minus 115 for my best bet here for this Tuesday NHL card. That'll wrap up this edition of the Ice Guys. Thanks to everyone in the chat for joining us. Hit the like button on the way out. We appreciate it very much. A reminder, the Ice Guys is live 7 days a week, Monday to Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern, Saturday and Sunday, noon Eastern. If you can't watch the show live, download the Ice Guys podcast in audio form on all major podcast platforms: Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and more. Download the Ice Guys podcast when you can't watch the show live. And again, one more time, because I know you guys love your betcasts, and the first Patreon exclusive live betcast is coming before the end of the month. It's going to be any of the next few days. So make sure you get on board. $10 per month. Patreon.com/Ice Guys, so that you are in the mix for the first live betcast that is exclusive to Patreon for 2024. Which is, again, coming your way before the end of January. That's a wrap. I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Tuesday night. Enjoy the games and good luck. And we will talk to you again tomorrow on Wednesday for another edition of the Ice Guys.